Hi, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Perry Barrow. I'm your host. I'm the Managing Director of First Global Direct Executive Recruitment and FGD Media Productions. Today's special guest is Professor Satabhawani, and he will be talking about a new project which is a collaboration between FGD Media and CEE, which is the Leadership Masterclass series on leading in a VUCA world. Thank you very much for coming on today, Professor. Always an honour to meet up with you and discuss with what's happening in the world of CEE and the masterclasses and your trainings with your clients. So, but I thought today there may be people out there who don't necessarily know everything about who you are. Yes. I can't imagine those people, of course, but if you could give an overview of you and your background and who you are and your organisation.
My role right now as the CEO of Center for Executive Education, CEE, we represent the Executive Development Associate in the US, which has been around since 1982. Focusing on leadership development, leadership assessment, and talent management and executive coaching solution. So that's what I've been doing. Prior to establishing CE in 2011, I was the managing director of Drake Beam Maureen, or better known as DBM, and head of executive coaching practice in Asia Pacific. And prior to that, I was with Mercer, Forum Corporation, and of course, Hay Group. So these are some of the global HR consulting and management consulting firm that I have been privileged to be involved in helping organizations to transform their leadership capability and preparing the next generation of leaders. So basically, that's a bit of my background.
Yeah. Fantastic. So tell us about the Centre for Executive Education and what are your portfolio of services within CEE?
Yeah, sure. So the Center for Executive Education was established primarily to look at what are the challenges the organization is facing in transforming and developing the next generation of leaders. So we want to work focusing on the next generation of leaders who are going to assume senior leadership role, whether the C-suite, the CEO of the future. So we are very focused in specifically in that area, and our objective is to partner with leading global training and consulting firm across the world to bring them together to provide our client end-to-end solution towards, as I said, identifying, developing these future leaders. And that's what we do primarily. And we have partners like Executive Development Associate, Action Management Associate in the US, which are focused on critical thinking, which is very important for the next generation of the VUCA world, operating in the VUCA world. And of course, we have organizations like SEGOS Asia Pacific, which does blended learning or e-learning. It's a global training firm, and many others consulting firms. So we come together, provide an end-to-end solution to help our client to be able to have a holistic solution to develop, to identify, to, as I said, identify and then to develop and to ensure sustained success for the leader. And through our leadership development solution, and of course in terms of our executive assessment. So those are the in a nutshell. Yeah.
Great. So within that, so you mentioned VUCA. Is that an acronym?
Well, VUCA, interestingly, VUCA stands for, of course, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. The acronym VUCA. It started actually in the US War College in the 80s, is to prepare the leaders after the Cold War, after the post-Cold War. How do you then get leaders in the US? They're concerned about getting the military leaders to be prepared for the unknown and those challenges that the military face across the world. Of course, since then, the concept has been applied in business, and it's quite relevant because you're talking about the current challenge that we are facing is exactly what we call the VUCA centric, because volatility, looking at what is happening with the commodity, the oil prices, looking at the V's for volatility, U for uncertainty. You're looking at what's happening with the Brexit, with the sudden, British exiting from the European Union, the common market, what it means that there's a lot of change of policy as it's going through right now. And of course, the election of Donald Trump as the US president, that again created a lot of uncertainty because, as you know, he has signed an executive order to remove US out of the TPP, which is the critical economic grouping in Asia involving US and some other countries in the world, which has impacted a lot of countries, including Singapore, Malaysia, and others in Asia. So that's the uncertainty. So because of this new government, new policy, the isolationist policy of some of this government. The next one is complexity. Now, the complexity arises because of what we call the different country having different law, different legislation statute, in how do you, as an international player, or as a multinational corporation, a global corporation, you need to be mindful of all these differences. It's very complex in terms of the regulatory will impact on your marketing, communication strategy, and pricing, and so forth. And lastly, the VUCA stands for ambiguity. Ambiguity, when you are deciding to go into a new market, is unknown, or you go into new industry. For example, when you look at budget airline, when you look at the full-fledged airline, Singapore Airlines moving into the budget airline, which is dominated in Asia by AirAsia, and first, Singapore Airlines started up with Tiger, and then it was not successful. They set up Scoot, and now they combined together. It was very challenging for SIA, for example. Then the other thing about the ambiguity is also because of the multi-generational perspective. You have now the baby boomer, the traditionalist has retired, the baby boomer slowly retiring in the next 5 to 10 years, and you have the Gen X and Gen Y in senior leadership position. So there's a lot of ambiguity in this. What does it make? What is it going to impact organization? A lot of ambiguity in terms of policy. You need to be able to adapt and change certain policy to adapt to this new generation of employees, and those are going to be in leadership position. So organizations have to adapt and change and be agile and to respond to this VUCA world, the new normal, that, as I said, is going to impact the way we operate. So VUCA is here to stay. We have to accept it, and it's going to get more intense, more tough for businesses in the future.
Absolutely. That captures it very, very well in terms of the modern way of having to deal with working situations and climates. VUCA certainly seems to capture that very, very, very well. So moving on from that, that's obviously a concept that CE and your masterclasses generally get across. So your latest project, the Leadership Masterclass online courses, what's that about? Where's that come from? And where are we going with this? Yeah.
So when we go to market, I mean, part of the EDA, our partner in the US, Executive Development Associate, embark on every 2 years research look at trend. What are some of the skills, competencies the organization need to be able to develop their leaders to be able to effectively lead the organization. So in the last year research in 2016, we were looking at VUCA and how does it impact organization ability? Are people ready for the VUCA world? So what we have found that there are specific competency that leaders need to demonstrate: critical thinking, cognitive readiness, emotional intelligence, ability to have learning agility, mental agility, and so for many other skills. So what we have listened to the market, we go to the market, we ask our client, how does this relate to your organization? Is this relevant? How are you going to be able to prepare this leader to face those challenges? So we listen to the market. We have then our team developed this series, or what we call the VUCA Masterclass series, to address the need of the market, to allow the leaders to be ready. Now, one of the things that we learned, especially in Singapore, the challenge of the digitalization of industry or the organization is going to be more more pronounced. Now, what does it mean is that, in the this year 2017 budget statement, the Minister for Finance in 𝐂𝐐 talk about how organizations are going to have to be ready with the government support. So that's what they call the disruptive world, which combined with VUCA means that organization has to be ready in how to leverage on artificial intelligence, robotic, bioscience, and all this combined to what we call the fourth revolution as termed by the World Economic Forum. So the fourth revolution is going to impact organization greatly in the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. By year 2020, we start this to be seen being impacted. So therefore, how can we support and help organization to be ready? So that's how the masterclass came in. So these masterclass are designed to be contemporary, they're practical and relevant, CPR, which means that every module, every program that we have designed will allow the managers to immediately apply this to the workplace. And it's relevant to the world today that they operate in the VUCA world, in the disruptive economy. And this will make them more relevant to be able to add value to the organization, continuously to be able to adapt and then execute the strategy more effectively. So the masterclass will address questions like what sort of style of leadership you need to demonstrate to be able to lead your team in the VUCA world. What are the various sustainable tactical and strategic options that you have in terms of putting in place some of this initiative to help your organization to remain relevant. And also it's about what sort of relationship do you need to develop with your partners, with your stakeholders and so forth. So there's a lot of things that we are addressing in this masterclass with the objective to ensure the readiness of the leaders to be able to lead organizations for success in the VUCA world, operating in the disruptive economy within the VUCA world. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a great overview. So I think what the viewers would probably be delighted to see is maybe some samples.
Yeah.
So the following video is an extract from Leading in the VUCA World Leadership Masterclass virtual courses. And this section is about employee engagement.
Any organization, when you do survey, employee satisfaction survey, and satisfied employees may not necessarily, it's not the same, because yes, we know employees who are satisfied, they behave in a very positive manner. They tend to they tend to result in low absenteeism, low turnover. And also in American companies, or sometimes in many organizations, you find today there will be low substance abuse, for example. So they're satisfied employee. So that's how they behave. But if you look at an engaged employee, they not necessarily behave in the same way. Engaged employees are satisfied too. So they are satisfied employees, but they do beyond that. They are persistent at a very difficult task. In other words, they do not give up easily. They're resilient. They make sure they continuously look at how can they develop their own skills and ability to transform themselves and also at the same time to help the organization to succeed. Next is that they are more prone to helping others, support others. As I said, they're part of this, what we call organizational citizenship. They want to help the others in the organization. They are very proactive. They take initiative to solve problems. They go beyond expectations, what is expected from them in their role, and so forth. There are many aspects. So if you look at engaged employee, they are also satisfied employee, but they demonstrate the behavior, not only of satisfaction behavior, but of the engagement behavior. So it's very important to understand, to distinctively look at engagement, employee engagement and employee satisfaction. So all engaged employees are satisfied. So employee satisfaction survey may not necessarily look at the same issues as employee engagement. Therefore, when you do your employee engagement survey, make sure look at employee satisfaction survey. Make sure you cover the same the areas that is important in employee engagement. And the question that you are putting in place when you ask those questions for the employee, Make sure they address the right set of questions to uncover the current state of employee engagement in the organization. Do they say, do they stay, and do they strive? The 3S. Say, do they say positively about organization? Do they strive? Do they stay in the organization, the talent retention? And of course, do they strive to do the extra, this discretionary effort?
Yeah, so I think from the video you can see that I'm sure the participants can see the importance of the 3, especially CPR, is very contemporary. Look at the content of the video, of the modules that we just shown you, as very contemporary to help the leaders to be able to develop their skills operating in the VUCA world. It's very practical because some of the tools that you can see that we will share, and also we go into more in depth during the masterclass, the virtual masterclass, on specific tools that we're going to offer as part of the package, best practice guide, templates and so forth. And the last one is relevant to you as a leader within the VUCA world. So CPR. Now, what is important is now, after viewing the video, you can see that we encourage you to adopt what we call an experiential action-based learning approach. Now, what does it mean? It means that every single module, to ensure your return on investment, we will encourage you to have a dialogue with your line manager. Talk about what you have learned. There will be an action plan. So every single module will come with an action plan, which we call the blueprint for leadership success. Now, what does it mean is that this will allow you to formulate a one-page action plan where you can then put in place within your organization, within your department, within your business unit, and to get the support from your sponsor, your boss. And this would, we will encourage you to have a regular dialogue within 6 to 8 weeks with your boss. What support do you need? What resources do you need? Who else can help you to make this happen? Because at the end of the day, attending the session is only one part of it, is to apply and adapt and to put in place in the workplace and to have more meaningful conversation with your boss and help your boss to coach you and guide you, and also to apply the concept being taught to help your team, guide your team and coach your team as well. So this would be the return on investment I think most participants will find useful and meaningful, and we hope that everyone would adopt that action-based learning approach, workplace learning approach that I just described.
So you may recommend then each one of these programs has an action-based program at the end of it. So
that's right. Yeah.
To create the plan, then go
Yeah.
back to the line manager. They can discuss. They can develop it over a number of weeks, way beyond the actual learning.
Right.
Maybe after several weeks, they can go back. They can review the materials and the videos again and see how they've developed up to that particular point and make adjustments and continue to develop their plan over the medium to maybe longer term.
Correct.
To go from being a good manager to a great manager, to drive an organization from being good to great.
Exactly. You put it very nicely, Perry. I think they sum up very nicely. We actually, every single module that our participant registered will offer as a bonus this module 10, which is the developing your leadership blueprint. So that will come with every module. So that means it's a value add. So we will provide that, irrespective whether you buy all the 10 modules or you buy every single module, each module, we will provide that. That will allow you to formulate. And with that, of course, there are a lot of resources that come with it that you can apply and share with your team, with your organization, as you start implementing the action plan. And of course, you can access to us. We also encourage the participant to engage with me and my team on social media, on the CEE, LinkedIn, Facebook, our Twitter account, on our Google Plus, and many other social media, because that is very important to have the regular dialogue with us, and we encourage that as part of the ongoing development.
Wonderful. So fantastic. So I guess as a thank you to our listeners and viewers watching this, we'll just give you one more taster of the course. The course is made up of, I think it's 60 videos, 65 articles, white papers, PDFs, whatever. So this section is a extract from Leading in the VUCA World Leadership Masterclass virtual courses, and this extract is about cognitive readiness.
Critical thinking, as we define it at CEE and EDA, is the ability or the tactical or proven skills which involve strategic thinking, creative thinking, problem solving, decision making, and all these are important in an innovative organization. And we always talk about innovation and driven organization. Critical thinking is a core competence, which I think should be, and it should remain so. But today, we're talking about the VUCA world. It's different. How do you go beyond critical thinking by having what we call the cognitive readiness skill? And here, as we talk about cognitive readiness, refer to the mental, emotional, and interpersonal preparedness for uncertainty and risk posed by the VUCA world. And this is the challenge. How do we shift our mental model to respond to this change in the marketplace and within our organization? That requires cognitive readiness. And EDA has developed this program called Paragon 7, which we have successfully launched in many organizations in the US. And the Paragon 7 is based on EDA research about as I said, leading the VUCA world, prepare for the future. And it looks at how to develop a leader's cognitive readiness skill so that they can thrive in today's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous business environment, or even the government sector, especially with today the threat of terrorists, with unknown fear of the unknown in terms of the threat posed by ISIS and other terrorist organizations. How can organizations get their act together in order to be prepared and respond? Not only government, but also organization in terms of their business continuity planning and sustainability to ensure the business will continue in the event of a terrorist threat, terrorist strike. And this is where we need leaders who will be able to think differently and to develop this set of cognitive readiness to be ready for the challenge in the VUCA world.
Thank you very much for your time.
Sure. I look forward, I think after this, to the questions, the participation from the audience, and continue to engage us, send us a question online, and I will look forward to engaging you and responding to those questions.
Absolutely, and you would have seen there's a QR code within some aspects of the video presentation you've watched. If you scan that, will take you to a landing page to collect various links to the materials that we've discussed today.
Yeah, and for those who are participating in the webinar, we will get back to you, and maybe we will discuss in terms of what is it that you need, and for future session, let us know. And as a token of appreciation for participating in this webinar, we will get back to you, and we will give you a surprise in terms of a gift for you to show our appreciation to you for participating in this webinar.
Yeah, so now you've got no excuses. Get on that link straight away. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Perry. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this webinar. Perry, I believe we have some questions already been posed.
So I think my first question for Professor really is about the virtual masterclass, and re-emphasize what are the key advantages of the virtual courses you have created.
Okay, thank you, Perry. I think this is a very important question, because today, if you look at most of the executives that we have been able to coach and train, many of them inform us that the challenge is that they travel quite extensively, and also over a diverse market. For example, in Asia Pacific, from China to Australia to India, Pakistan, Indonesia. How can we deliver the same content to the different group of individuals, leaders across the region? So based on this feedback over the last few years, we decided to transform our traditional face-to-face masterclass program and make it available on a virtual platform, and where organization can have their leaders being trained at the same time across the region and access the information either on real time or they can do it at their own time. In other words, again, it's a knowledge on demand, so to speak. and that will allow them to be able to learn at their own pace across any market at their own time to suit their own schedule. So that's the benefit primarily of the virtual course, or what I call knowledge on demand, or to be able, you know, to turn on the tap, so to speak, of knowledge and use that accessibility to knowledge as and when you need it. Of course, the only two things that you need is the access to internet and also browser, either on your laptop, PC, or your PDA, smartphone, tablet, your various electronic devices, which will be able to have the browser capability, internet browser capability, and you can access the virtual course. So basically, it's quite straightforward, and there is a link that you can go in and have a look at trial. During the registration of the program for this webinar, you'll be able to see a link which is the FGD Academy at tkfik.com, which we'll be able to go in and experience and also subscribe on a trial basis, no obligation, to see how the look and feel and how to experience it. And also there's a QR code, I believe, Perry, where they can scan and go direct to the page. Am I right?
So the next question is, does virtual training replace the need for one-to-one or group facilitated coaching?
Well, not necessarily. As a matter of fact, they complement one another. The reason why we have the one-on-one or executive coaching or group coaching is important depending on what is the intended learning objective. What are you trying to accomplish? Is developing of skills, and it depends on the organization. Not all organizations can afford to offer one-on-one executive coaching, group coaching. So for organizations that would like to have a platform that's scalable, that would be able to cover a wider group of executives, where they would be then learn the same thing as the senior executives. So basically having an opportunity to develop the knowledge and skills in a more wider, easier accessibility. So the virtual training is a starting point. And of course, for organizations that do have internal coaches or managerial coaches, they can use that coaching skills to be able to complement the virtual training, meaning that whatever the outcome of the action plan that the participants develop during the masterclass, virtual masterclass, because every module will have a opportunity for the participant to develop what we call an experiential action-based learning smart action plan, where they will share with their line manager, and will get the line manager to coach, or HR to coach them to be able to develop the skills further or reinforce the skills that they have learned. That's number one. Now, the other question you're asking, whether does it replace? Not necessarily. You can have start with group executive coaching, or group facilitated coaching, or one-on-one coaching, and then for certain skills, for example, one of the things about today leadership is about critical thinking. So if you're looking at leading in a VUCA world, or in a disruptive economy, how do we think clearly, critically, to be able to challenge our assumptions, the way we make decisions, the way we think about solutions? And one way to look at critically is our ability to innovate and think creatively, and that's require what we call cognitive readiness. So if therefore through the one-on-one coaching or group coaching, you may need to supplement further additional skills, knowledge or skills, depending on the requirement, and the virtual training module, the virtual training, virtual masterclass, so to speak, provide that opportunity for the participant to develop that. So it goes hand in hand. That's number one. So besides coaching now, how does the virtual training also help? For organizations that have their own in-house training, their own regular training program with other vendors, or the corporate university, many multinational client of ours globally, CE and EDA, for example, Boeing or General Electric or Johnson & Johnson and so forth, they have their own corporate university. Citibank, for example. So the question is then, how can we complement this virtual training module and support those current initiatives at a very low cost, real time? They can study at their own demand at home, when they're traveling at the airport, on the plane. They can download these modules, and most important is real time, on time, to suit their own schedule at any time of the year. And it's very practical, it's cost effective, and many organizations are finding useful by having this as a platform to complement their existing learning and development programs offered to the leaders.
Great. Okay, so this then could have a positive impact on corporate productivity and revenue if people all around Asia Pacific are able to access your coaching at any given time.
Absolutely, because I think the thing is that you're not constraining the participant to come in at a certain point in time. You do not need them to fly in all at one time at one location. The challenge is that because sometimes, because of demand imposed by client or projects, it will not be possible to have everyone coming at the same time. So, and also the virtual, the web-based, platform means that they can have it available anytime, as I said, at home or traveling, in a bus or the train or on the plane. They can access that. So that means that the productivity will increase. They will be able to learn and use the time during the work on more other important project-based tasks or meetings that could perhaps be more useful, and they can set aside learning time, their time, on a time that is best suited, in terms of what makes sense for them. So it complements the work-life balance, and then you help them also to be able to look at how people learn. And of course, some people still prefer to come face-to-face, depending on the nature of the topic, depending on the issues. If you're talking about problem solving, you're looking at resolving business challenges, for example, then I still believe you need to meet face-to-face, you need to work together, collectively learn from one another. But generally, if you're talking about developing knowledge on what is emotional, social intelligence, or what is developing effective team, what is required to transform a multi-generational team to a high-performance organization, and so forth, those programs, by leveraging on the virtual platform, it enhances individual employee productivity. And of course, at the end of the day, productivity leads to employee engagement, and therefore, employee engagement leads to productivity, and then the ability of the employee, when they're engaged, they'll be able to serve the customer better. And when the customer is engaged, that leads to, of course, the organization results being achieved. So that's how the linkage, the revenue. So what we call the result-based learning. Now, so maybe at this stage, let me see whether I could be able to share this virtual masterclass to help the employee to develop their self-leadership and team leadership. Yeah, and that will help them to create a climate of trust where the employee feels they're engaged, and they will then be able to engage the customer more effectively. That leads to the revenue growth, the organizational results. So every module that we have designed, leading the VUCA world, follow this framework. It's all about achieving organizational results. All the modules, as I mentioned earlier, we adopt what we call we adopt what we call CPR. It's contemporary, it's practical, and it's relevant. Now, the practicality and the relevant, it's contemporary because we address issues, business challenges that organizations and leaders face every day to be able to help the organization and the team to strive for success. So we look at contemporary issues, and we develop models, framework, with our clients. So all our work is about what we call process, consulting. We sit with our client, we understand the challenges, we develop those framework, and how do we adapt to the different organizations. So the answer is yes. So what we do primarily in the design of the program, for example, the case study, the exercises, the role play, and some of our clients use gamification and so forth, we can develop the program to tailor it to suit the specific organization strategies. And that means become more meaningful, and that means that you'll be able to achieve the desired learning based on the organizational competency model, and that will then lead towards the achievement of the organization strategy. So what we do, we look at the strategy, the organization strategy first, and then what are the leadership competency that's required to drive the strategy forward. Then we look at the program, the modules that we have. We have quite an extensive modules that we can then map against that concept of competency that's critical to drive the strategy. Now that modules that's been identified will then be refined, looking at the content, exercises, and so forth, that will be relevant to the organization. So at the end of the day, what you get is a highly impactful experiential program that allows the organization to leverage on some of these best practices, at the same time attune this or adapt this to suit the organizational requirement. Barry?
Yeah, wonderful. Right. So, yeah, there's many of these types of courses out there, one way or another. What is the key differentiator between your virtual masterclass courses and many others that are available in the market?
Oh, yeah, sure. Several. One, as I said, the CPR approach, the design of the program, all our program based on contemporary, practical, and relevant. And we work with organizations like EDA, SAGOS, Action Management International, and also recently we've just forged an agreement with a long-standing partner of mine called 𝐂𝐎𝐑𝐏𝐿𝐿, Professor Dan Khanna, who is from the US, who is from the Silicon Valley, from the Bay Area, and was moved out of Texas. So we have developed the CPR concept. I developed with Professor Dan Khanna, how to be able to put in place this all this program to allow our participants to benefit from the program immensely and make it more relevant. So it's contemporary because of the state-of-the-art best practices. It's practical because, as I said, the exercises that we have designed, intervention is really workplace-based learning, and is relevant because to the managers and leaders operating in the VUCA world, in the highly disruptive VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, the world that we're living today, the disruption that we are facing. And a lot of companies are struggling with that. So what we do, and we have been able to differentiate our program with others, is that on this CPR is number one. Number two is we draw on experience in our consulting and our coaching experience over the years across the world. Of course, in Asia, based on CE experience and our partners in Malaysia, Indonesia, India, China, Australia, Japan, Korea, these are all our partners across the region where we draw on their experience in designing the content to make it more relevant. Yeah? And finally, the most important of all is a facilitator. So for now, most of the modules is been designed by me and my team, but I deliver the program primarily. But we have a team. The program is not just me. We have a team that has been working on to put in place. So the collectively, the expertise that we have put in place to ensure that the program is designed by a team of experts, and the profile of which you can go to our CE website, ce-global.com. You can see under our teams are very renowned author, coaches, HR practitioners, CEOs across Asia, and of course, in our team in US. So we draw on those experts. So when we
develop this virtual program is based on their experience, not only mine, not only our team in Singapore or the Asia. We look at multinational corporation across, global corporation across the US. Now, so that's one. Finally, most important of all, we are a research-based organization. Now, what do I mean by that? Every 2 years, the EDA, Executive Development Associates in the US, or EDA, embark on what we call the Leadership Trend Survey, or Executive Development Trend Survey. So, for example, the 2016 last year survey clearly outlined 3 challenges in leading the VUCA world. It's not enough to have, for example, vision. You need to be able to have clarity of the vision, and how do you then able to articulate it across the organization and to develop this, what we call cognitive readiness. Ability to, simply put, cognitive readiness, the ability to think critically and complement with the emotional and social intelligence competency in the sense of sense-making, intuition, and so forth. So all these results from the survey, from the research, is taken into consideration and put into the virtual course. And we as CEE, as we speak right now, we are embarking on what we call the survey on the leadership transition effectiveness into the VUCA world. We are doing a research. For those of you interested, go to our website, ce-global.com /survey. You will have the questionnaire where you can go in, and we will like to hear from you. What are some of your challenges? What are some of the skills that you think you need to develop? And we will look at all these are Asia specific, and of course we also have a survey, similar survey in the US, in Europe, and so forth, where we will then take that into consideration and put that into our virtual course. So it is very research based, contemporary, practical, and that means that at the end of the day, the participants take away something that's meaningful, that they can apply, and they'll be able to put in place immediately after the workshop. Yeah, Perry, can I just say, I just saw a question from Saravana Kumar, one of our client and a partner in Malaysia. He asked a question: to deal with VUCA, approach maybe to a vision, V for vision, U for understanding of the market, C for clarity, A for agility. And I think that's true. This is actually the VUCA Prime. This is the VUCA by Bob Johansen. Bob Johansen is the renowned author of a book called Leaders Make the Future, which I highly recommend all of you to read, in 2014. Bob Johansen spelled Johansen. Bob, you can Google him. Bob Johansen. He wrote a book called Leaders Make the Future: the 10 New Leadership Skills for the Uncertain World. And of course, it's used, in university, in academic, but it's also used for organizations that's looking at to prepare leaders to prepare them for the future in the next 40 years. So it's about 40 years, 20 to 30 years, and it is his experience with the Institute of the Future. So he's looking at, he's a futurist. Very interesting social scientist, and he's an author. I like his book. I read the book, and it's very interesting because you're looking at how future leaders need to nurture those skills. So when Saravana talking about the concept of what we call the VUCA Prime, which is the set of volatility. Because of the volatility, you need to have vision, clarity of vision. Instead of uncertainty, you need to have understanding of the underlying factors that's impacting the organization or the situation. C stands for complexity. Therefore, you need to have clarity. What are the interrelated factors? And A, instead of ambiguity, you need to have agility to respond to the changes, what we call the mental and learning agility, the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that is very important, because the challenge we have here, a lot of leaders are still using the same knowledge and skills they learned from the earlier days as a manager. What they learn in the MBA, it doesn't work anymore. 90% of what you learn in the business school is no longer relevant in today's highly disruptive VUCA world. The question is, you need to unlearn those things, and how do you learn new skills and then apply that? And it's a continuous process. Learn, unlearn, relearn. And the great thing is that the Gen Y and soon Gen Z, those are born between 1995 to 2010, these are the group that find it easier to adapt because they are more comfortable with technology. They are more immersed into the world of technology, and this would make us, I believe, prepare us very well in the future because of this group. And as CEE, I think since the question is about, Saravana is asking about the approach to the VUCA Prime, we have developed our own approach, what we call the VUCA world. Now, what is the LEAP approach? Now, what does it mean? You need to be able, the next gen leaders need to be able to demonstrate specific characteristics. L stands for liberal thinking. We need to open to new ideas. We need to discard those ideas, values that doesn't exist anymore, doesn't work anymore. We cannot work in silo. We need to be able to learn to accept competition. We need to respect our competitors, and that is very important. So have a new set of thinking, challenge our mental model. How do we learn, unlearn new thing, new way of doing things? And the young, the Gen Y and Gen Z can be our mentors. For those of you who are leaders who are the Gen X and the boomers, accept the young, the Gen Y as your, what we call reverse mentoring. They'll be able to teach you about design thinking. They'll be able to teach you about technology, innovation, and so forth. Then E stands for exuberant. How do you demonstrate a sense of a lively energy, sense of passion, optimism in engaging your employee and stakeholder? Because the world in VUCA is so chaotic. Sometimes there is so daunting challenges, you get so frustrated. So you need to consistently demonstrate to the sense of affiliative leadership style and engaging your team. Then A stands for agility. And how would you create a learning organization with cognitive readiness and creative thinking? As I said, the mental agility and learning agility is very important. How do you learn, unlearn, and relearn? And lastly, and I think the most important in a VUCA world is to develop what we call the trust-based partnership with your team, both within your organization, with your supplier, vendor, competitors. Now you will be surprised. I am advocating organization today to start talking to your competitors. How do you can collaborate? How can you compete and collaborate at the same time to be able to bring develop meaningful solutions for the society, for the industry? And that is really missing in today's organization, because people are inward looking, are not able to accept. But the good news is, I say, the Gen Y and Gen Z, they're very highly collaborative. In the 2015, the CEE did a survey about leading and engaging the multi-generational workforce, where we interviewed the Gen Y employees, and also we also interview the Gen Z employees who are doing the internship in the universities and the polytechnic. What we have found, they expect their organization to be able to open to this collaboration, working together, and they embrace that. They embrace better than the older generation, the Gen X and the boomer. So we get a lot to learn from the young. Now, my advice to a lot in my executive coaching with C-suite leaders, CEO, the CIO, CMO, CHRO, COO, so different functional leaders at a very large global organization. This is something they are struggling with, to be able to accept the fact that they are no longer the monopoly of talent, of knowledge and skills. A good example will be Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble today adopt the reverse mentoring, where they have senior leaders would be assigned a junior staff who has the understanding of the technology, the consumer behavior, preferences. Another great example is Infosys India, which does system development. Similarly, and GE, General Electric in the US, and so forth. So there are many organizations are adopting what we call the reverse mentoring. But to do that, you need to challenge a mental model, that a mentor doesn't have to be someone senior, wiser, experienced, but someone who has the knowledge, the ability to inspire, to be able to develop that climate of trust, and to be able to, and this is where leaders today need to ask yourself, are you able to do that and demonstrate that? Because at the end of the day, it's all about leaving a legacy, leaving a organization when you leave the organization. For example, this morning when I was at an institution this morning, very sad. I was talking to the CHRO of a large institution. We have she's been there, my client, for 5 years, is trying to do a transformation project. But unfortunately, the CEO in the organization has been replaced with someone from a public sector. And the mindset of a public sector, and because of their experience, they're not able to keep an open mind, not have the liberal thinking, not able to allow the younger officers, the younger leaders to experiment. You need to experiment. You need to try what we call the sandbox. In fintech, in the technology industry, we talk about the sandbox experiment, where you need to try, allow people to experiment, learn. People make mistakes, but do you allow that to happen? Make people feel comfortable to try and be more able to take on risks. Unfortunately, in Singapore, that is sorely lacking. I find it better in India. My experience working in organization in Korea, far much better in China. But Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, many of these countries, Southeast Asia, we are still way behind. Australia is much better. Of course, India, as I said, Pakistan, not as great as India, but in other Europe and so forth, similar problems. So how do you encourage people to be able to continue to develop that climate of trust, empower them, and allow them to? Yes, so I'd like to say thank you for everyone. I think this is just the beginning. I would encourage all of you to visit the link that that Perry just provided in the chat. The virtual course free trial. We allow for a limited time for you to try it out for free. Some of the modules. Go in there. Play around, look at some of the various modules. We have 9 programs. Under each program, there are many modules. We have a lot of resource material. Have a look, try it out, and you'll be able to see how we will benefit. And connect with us on our social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, corporate Facebook, Twitter, and so forth, to be updated on the various program research. As I said, we'd like to invite all of you to participate on the CE, the Leadership Transition Readiness for a VUCA world. And this is very important, because this will allow you to have access to information. For those who participate, each respondent will have the complete report, which is worth about US $150, will be made available to you. At the same time, for those who participate online, you'll be able to have a free ebook for a limited period. We're giving you a free ebook on the leading the VUCA world. And again, for those who register for this webinar, we will also be sending you a gift to help you kickstart the program. So share across your team, share across this information with your bosses, your colleague, your HR, and leverage all the resources that we are making it available to you. And visit our website, ce-global.com/survey to take part, and go into our website. There are many resources on our channel, YouTube channel. There are many videos. We have articles and so forth that you can look at, and continue to engage me. If any question you may have, opinion, share your opinion on from time to time. Every week we post new articles or new issues, challenges that organizations face. We'd like to hear from you. So I want to say from our end here, thank you very much for taking the time in the afternoon to come with to share with us, to listen to this and participate in this webinar. I hope it's been useful, and I look forward to seeing you again and engaging you again in the future. Sorry.
Yeah, great. So thanks once again, Professor, and thank you everybody for tuning in today. And We look forward to your feedback on either any parts of the webinar which you want to feedback to Professor, or if you do have a go on the free trial of the virtual courses, any feedback you provided will help us provide the best course that we possibly can for the Professor's clients. So that'd be highly appreciated. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay, bye-bye.